all, welcome back to Triple Goddess Soapery. My name is Angela, and today we are making Namit Lake Peppermint. This is, as it sounds, a peppermint essential oil soap, and it is named after Namit Lake, which is here on Vancouver Island. Now, as most of you probably know, if you followed along at all, that all of my soaps are British Columbia inspired. I find a place, a monument, a thing, and I match it up with a fragrance and a color scheme, and that is how I name all of my soaps. Now, today we are going to be making soap, which you'll be able to follow along on the screen, but the main thing I wanted to talk about was the reason that I started making soap. Because I think that there's a few reasons that most people get into making soap in the beginning, and I think that you may be a little surprised about why I started making soap because it's not the typical reasons. Like most people, like there's a few reasons. A lot of people start making soap because them or a loved one has some really challenging skin conditions, so they start experimenting making their own soap. Also, another big reason is because people take offense to what's in commercial soaps and they decide that they want to make their own so that they can, you know, keep a good, so they know exactly what's going into it and make their own decisions. I didn't start making soap for either of those reasons. And I will say, like, just as an aside, I will never, never, never trash talk commercial soaps because I like commercial soap. I think it's just fine. I have nothing bad to say about commercial soaps. I have nothing bad to say about detergent based soaps. I like Dove. It's fine. I have no complaints about that. You'll never hear me trash talk commercial soaps. Anyway, the whole reason I actually started making my own soap was because I'm kind of a closet hippie. I have a garden. I like all that fun stuff. I like going to farmers markets, and I saw all of these absolutely gorgeous, beautiful soaps, and they just fit my aesthetic. They fit the kind of lifestyle that I like with the gardening and the more natural stuff, and I'm like, I really like this. So I bought a couple of bars of soap from one vendor, bought some from a different person. I've bought homemade cold process soap from at least, I want to say at least a dozen different makers. Some local, some Canadian, some American, some from the UK. I've spent a lot of money. And I have always, always had a problem with cold process soap making my skin tight and itchy and dry. And I've never found a cold process bar of soap that didn't make me itchy and feel yucky, basically. And it was super frustrating because everybody always talks about, oh, you should use cold process soap because it's this and because it's that and because it's safer for your skin and because it's, better for you. And that has not been my experience. I have now, I don't know if I just got unlucky with a dozen different people who made a dozen different bars of soap and they all use too much coconut oil or too much fragrance or whatever it is that they do. But like I said, none of them worked for me. And I really wanted to be able to use the fun, the pretty, the really nice, the fun smelling soap, the pretty soap, the colorful soap. So that's the reason I started making my own, because nobody makes a bar soap that I can use. I've used Dove soap all my life, love Dove, but I wanted to be able to use cold processed soap, and I just couldn't find one that actually worked for me. So, started making my own soap. I started with the typical 30-30-30 soap recipe that was, 30% palm, 30% coconut oil, 30% olive oil, and then, some castor oil. And that was okay, but it did make me feel a little bit itchy and dry. So then I started like walking back the coconut oil to the point where now I make a soap bar that I can actually use that is still super nice, and I can use all the fun fragrances or different essential oils, all the fun colors, and now I can actually have a cold process soap that I can use. So I love it. I think it's great. So that's the main reason. I don't know, and like I said, because I don't know what other makers' recipes are, I just assume that they're all using way more coconut oil than I do. And I say that because I mean I tend to use up to 5% essential oils or fragrance oils in my soaps, assuming that the IFRA guidelines say that I'm allowed. I use micas and clays in my soaps, and I don't have any issues with any of that. So my assumption, based on what I know about soap making, is that other soap makers either they're using unsafe amounts of fragrances that are bothering me. Most likely, it's the coconut oil. Their cleansing values are just too high, and they make me itchy, and it makes me really sad because I actually have purchased a lot of soap. I probably spent $150, maybe closer to $200 a year ago, buying soap from a fairly well known YouTuber from the UK, and her soap smells freaking amazing. And it makes me so incredibly itchy. I cannot use it. And it makes me sad. So I actually use that soap for my hands in my bathroom upstairs and in my soap studio to clean with because it's just clearly has too much coconut oil for me. So yeah. So that was the last time. Actually, that's not the last time. And at the market I was at in December, I did buy a bar of soap from a woman there without reading the label first, and coconut oil was pretty high up in the list. And I use it about twice a week in my shower, and otherwise I just use my own soap the rest of the time. So yeah. So that's my story basically. That's the reason I started making soap. Now, I would love it if you are a soap maker. If you could leave a comment down below and let me know why you started making soap. Because I know, again, so many people say they start making soap because they don't want to use commercial soap for whatever reason, or they have skin issues and they can't use certain soaps for whatever reason. And I want to know what your reason is. So let me know. And if you have made it this far, we're just over 1/3 of the way through the video right now. If you are watching this and you like this sort of content, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe for more soapy content. I do have a list of videos planned over the next coming months for different things I'm going to do. I have a magnesium cream tutorial and walkthrough that I'm going to post up in probably next month, I would say, because I have my videos all planned out for the rest of the month. I'm gonna do a Soapmaker 3 tutorial, maybe a soap calc tutorial, as well as some other things. But those are the top 3 videos that are like on the tip of my brain that I know that I'm gonna do. So yeah. If you have any other suggestions of things that you want to see, I'd love to see the comments down below and I will add them to the list. So yeah. Now back to what you're watching on the screen. Today, like I said, this is a pure essential oil soap. It is peppermint essential oil, so it'll be nice and cooling. I am using almost, like not quite, but almost the max amount of peppermint oil allowed in a soap. So this will be nice and refreshing and cooling. Shouldn't make you, shouldn't give you any unwanted reaction. Although I do not recommend using this soap on your girly bits, whether you're a man or a woman. That being said, I generally don't use generally don't use this soap on my girly bits to begin with anyway, because that's just me. So for this soap, I am going to do an in the pot swirl, which is what I've been doing for my last few soaps. I've just been really, really into the in the pot swirl. So we have basically, we're using ultramarine blue, and then we're going to use a combination of that and titanium dioxide, and then just titanium dioxide to do our swirl. And then once it's all mixed up, we're just going to pour it all into the big bucket and get it into the mold. One thing to always be aware of when you're working with titanium dioxide is that it does have a tendency to accelerate your batter. So just be aware of that. I do also find that titanium dioxide does need to be mechanically blended into your soap, which means you're not going to get as good of a result if you just use a whisk, a spatula, etc. to mix it in. You really do need an immersion blender to get it in there and get it mixed up properly and to get that nice white color you're looking for. As well, something that I learned after this, when you're blending ultramarine blue, you should what I do is I add a little bit of my colorant to the batch oils and I mix it up good. What you should do is get those oils nice and hot and then put your ultramarine blue in and then mix the bejesus out of it, and that'll really help with blending, and you won't have any like little particles in your soap when it's all done that are, not blended as well as they should be. So that is a trick and tip that I learned after I made this soap. It still came out pretty good. Like, there's not many spots that I really noticed that are, speckled, but there are a couple. So something to be aware of for next time. So here we have our titanium dioxide going into one of our blues just to mix it in. And I did have a little bit, but I'm just adding some more here because the color difference wasn't enough. There wasn't enough contrast. And as always, make sure you're wearing your PPE when you're making soap. I got my gloves on here, and actually these sleeves I always find a little baggy, so I actually have my sleeves tucked into my gloves. I'm wearing my face mask, my face shield over my glasses. And I also have, long pants on, closed-toed shoes. And here we go. We're just going to get the titanium dioxide, which is just mixed in with a little bit of water. I get my titanium dioxide from Windy Point Soaps. They have a water-soluble one, and it is just so beautiful to work with. You can put your titanium dioxide in just a little bit of water and just swirl it around, and it completely just melts away and blends perfectly. I like it so, so much better than trying to work with an oil-soluble titanium dioxide. Now we're just going to get this all blended in. And one of the things I like the best about the In the Pot swirl, especially because I'm working with titanium dioxide with all of these batches, is that the titanium dioxide does speed up trace a little bit, but it's perfect for an In the Pot swirl because you want the batter to be a little bit on the thicker side so that the colors don't get muddied and you have some definition. So it actually works out beautifully. Now, with peppermint essential oil, I find that it can decelerate trace. I know some people say that they find that it accelerates trace. I've never really had that issue. It might a little bit, but I guess it probably has something to do with too just making sure that you're buying your essential oils and your fragrance oils for that matter from a reputable supplier. All of my essential oils, most of them come from New Directions Aromatics, and then most of my fragrance oils come from either them, Voyager Soap and Candle, Windy Point Soaps, as well as Fizz Fairy. I've started to build a bit of a collection from them as well. All right, so we are just about ready. Also, too, if you find that your batter is starting to thicken up, you could try giving it a mix around with your spatula, and sometimes that helps loosen it up a little bit. Just, a little bit of another trick there. So I'm just holding my container up as high as I can get and pouring it in, and then we're just going to scrape out the rest. Now, the only thing about this soap that I find that I was disappointed about, and you will see that once I'm doing the top, is that I ended up messing around with designing the top for entirely too long, so it just kind of blended all together. I mean, it's pretty, it looks fine, but like, you don't have the definition there that you might have if I didn't mess around too long with it. All right, and of course, like usual, I need to scrape the bejesus out of my containers. No soap left behind. Like I said, I've been really obsessed with doing in the pot swirls. So now that everything's in there, I'm just giving it a few spins around with my spatula. And I actually probably should have like scooped it around a little bit to kind of get the color down a little deeper, but whatever, it still turns out nice. But yeah, I've just been really obsessed with in the pot swirls. I've done 3 in the pot swirls back to back. You'll see the next one next week. And yeah, I'm just loving it. I've got like so many plans to just do so many in the pot swirls, like basically for the foreseeable future. And people might get bored with that. I apologize now, but until I get bored with it, I'm probably gonna keep doing them. And I'm also really loving this blue color. Like, I don't know, blue soap is just beautiful. And I have some plans. I'm gonna be doing a monochrome soap, black and white. I'm really looking forward to that. For the March release, I'm gonna have a soap that is blue, white, and yellow. Looking forward to that as well, and really looking forward to that fragrance oil. It is a soap that I made last year, but I've actually switched up the fragrance oil just a little bit, as well as the coloring. So it's gonna have the same name, but it's gonna be slightly different. So you will have to wait for that. That will be You'll probably start seeing the videos for that or the posts on social media for that sometime the middle of February. We shall see. We'll see when I make it. I kind of want to make some more soap this weekend for the March release because I have 3 planned for March. One, how many do I have? Think I have one new one and then 2 remakes, but one will be completely different colors. So here we go. And I should have just stopped here when I got to the end and not like screwed around, but I just keep going and I just kind of muddy up the colors so it's just all kind of one solid color at the top, but it still comes out all right. I would also like to take this opportunity. If you have made it this far, I am proud of you, and I just want to say thank you so much. You make this so much more fun for me making videos, having knowing that people are watching them, getting to the end, asking questions. It makes me warm and fuzzy inside. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the like button. That means a lot to creators like me. All right. And we're going to get a little bit of white diamonds eco glitter on there because what is a soap without glitter? It's awfully boring. That's what it is. Now, I didn't go with any chunky glitter because I felt like this soap has a more masculine vibe, but it still has a little bit of glitter because, that's just me. Now, I will say that I did forget, or I didn't forget, I did the cutting of this on a live on TikTok, so I do not have the cutting video. But I do show you here how I gel my soap in a second. All I do is throw my loaf of soap into an old Amazon box with a towel. And that's how I gel my soap. Easy peasy, don't gotta worry about the oven and someone ruining your soap. So there she is there. So thank you again so much for watching, and I will be back soon. I hope you have a fabulous week.